everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Sophie and in today's video I'm going to be doing another continuing series reading vlog. So before I get into the video, please remember to like this video if you enjoy it and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. I primarily read fantasy, thriller and romance books, and I post videos every Sunday and every other Wednesday. So as I said, this video is going to be another episode of continuing all the series I'm in the middle of. We have two different genres in this one. So we have two fantasy series and two romance series. So the two romance series I want to continue are the Ren Fair series by Jen DeLuca. So I'll be reading the third book, which is Well Matched. I read the first one and the second one a couple of years ago now, and for some reason I just sort of never gravitated towards getting these books, and I got this one for Christmas like a couple of years ago, so I really should read this one. And I recently acquired the fourth book, so there's no reason for me not to carry on and finish this series. I did really enjoy the first and the second one, so I don't really know why I didn't really go out of my way to continue, but I am excited to read this one. And then we have the final book in the When in Rome series. So we have In Your Dreams by Sarah Adams. This is the fourth and final book in that series, and I'm really excited for this one because we follow two characters that we've had quite a lot of build up for, so I'm really excited to get this one finished. And then the two fantasy books are, the first one is Vows and Ruin by Helen Scheuerer. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. That is the second book in the Legends of Thesmar series. I read the first one maybe about a month or so ago in a reading book talk hype books, and I actually really enjoyed the first book and I'm really eager to carry on. This is a completed series, so I can just binge these back to back now, so I'm really excited to get to this one. And then the fourth and final one is, I think it's called Glow of the Everflame, which is the second in the Kindred's Curse series. Now I know that there's a third one that's out and there is a fourth one coming out, and I thought the fourth one was coming out this year, but now I think the date's been changed. I'm not so sure what the date is, but I really want to get caught up with this series, and then when the fourth one comes out I can just dive right into it. So we'll be reading the second one in this vlog. So we have these two romance books to read and then two fantasy series as well to continue, so I think we've got a good range of genres, so let's crack on and get reading. So I have started reading the first book for this vlog, which is Vows and Ruin by Helen Scheuerer. This is the second book in the Legends of Thesmar series, and in this one we follow a kingdom or group of kingdoms where there is a prophecy that a woman who wields a blade will bring about the end of days. And when this prophecy was told like 20 or so years ago prior to the start of the novel, they obviously got rid of all the women warriors. They didn't like kill them or anything, they just, no woman was allowed to wield a blade. They had to be other things like librarians and things like that. So we have a few sort of ex-warriors who are sort of like in their middle ages now. We follow Thea, who all she wants to do is be a warrior. She wants to fight for her kingdom, and she watches like the men fight and she tries to like teach herself. Basically at the start of the first book she is granted a boon by the king because she ended up saving his life, and she asks to be a warrior of Thesmar and he reluctantly agrees. And then we follow Thea as she begins her training and with what's going on in this kingdom as well. So there is a sort of magic in this kingdom where there's these things called rifts, and these creatures come through the rifts and wreak havoc upon the kingdoms. So the warriors are trying to fight them off and kill them. And then we've also got like politics. We've got the kingdoms kind of like they're working together to banish this one enemy, but you can tell they're kind of all up against each other. And the ending of the first book was very explosive and we had quite a few reveals about who our characters could be. Obviously as well we have a sort of broody male character called Wilder Hawthorne, and he's a war sword, which is like an elite soldier, and him and Thea like work together and he ends up involved with her training, and obviously they have a little bit of a romance. So I really enjoyed the first one. I gave it a 4-star. I thought it was a really strong start to a series. And the second one so far, I'm struggling with it a little bit. I think that I'm not sure if I'm in a bit of a fantasy mood at the moment. I think I'm really leaning towards more of a romance at the moment. So I've read I think maybe like 20 or so % of this one, but I am liking it so far. I find myself really like taking myself out of the book and thinking about other things whilst I'm reading, and then I have to go back and reread the chapters. So I think I will carry on with this one, but I'm not going to force myself. If I don't fancy it, I might just pick up one of the romances for this vlog instead. But I am liking this one so far. The writing style is engaging, it's just not engaging me. I think that the book has a really good way of reminding you kind of what happened at the end of the last book without being too repetitive, and it's really interesting being back with our characters, being back in this kingdom, and essentially the prophecy is now like coming to light. We're learning more about what the prophecy means and what this means for the kingdom, so that's really interesting, and I'm hoping that we explore more of that as we go along, and I'm hoping that we explore more of our characters' pasts as well, because we did learn something about a couple of the characters that was really interesting, and I really want to know how this is going to affect them and the kingdom. I am liking this one so far. I'm just not loving it, but I think it's a me issue, it's not the book. So I'm gonna carry on maybe, or take a little bit of a break and read something else and then come back to that one. But yeah, so far I am liking it. I'm just it's me that's the problem. I have now finished reading Vows and Ruins by Helen Scheuerer, and I'm going to give this one a 3-star rating. So I really enjoyed the fantasy aspects and how we were starting to explore the world and the different kingdoms and who our characters really were, especially Thea, with what we found out about her in the first book and her background and the people around her. But I just thought there was way too much like sex in this, and I know it's a fantasy romance, and don't get me wrong, I love romance, I love a good like, you know, hot sexy scene, but it just felt like it was every other chapter, and like we'd go to this kingdom that had just, you know, something had happened in this village had just been destroyed, and then like they're staying the night and then they're like straight down to business, or like people are in the next room and they're just like, it was just constant, and it got really like I got really weary of it, and it got to the point where I was just kind of like skipping through the scenes because, not being funny, they were just kind of quite samey. I think, like, you know, like I said, I do love romance, and I do think these scenes do have a place in the story. Obviously it's fantasy romance in this case, but I just think like once you've had like a couple, like that's enough. We don't really need all this many, and like some of them did come to sort of like fade to black, which I sort of appreciated more towards the end. I just felt like they were just going at it all the time, and like that's all this book was. And for me, I'm more interested in the fantasy aspect of this. I do think the relationship is interesting and like the dynamic between Wilder and Thea, but I just think that like these scenes just really took over the book, and I think that's why I gave it a 3-star. I think if there had been less of them, I'd have probably given it like a 3.5 or maybe even 4, I'm not sure. I do think that this really set up the rest of the series quite nicely. Again, we had quite a cliffhanger that it left on, quite an explosive ending, and I'm really interested to see where this leaves our characters. Obviously I can't say what happened because it's the ending of a second book in the series, but it was quite an explosive ending, and I'm worried about what's going to happen to some of these characters, where they're going to go in their stories. With the relationship aspect of this book, I'm interested to see where this goes as well because of the ending, and I'm interested to see what happens to Thea, where her future lies, where the future lies of the kingdom, and obviously the monsters and stuff that are attacking this kingdom. So yeah, I did think it was good, but I don't think it was great, so a 3-star I think is a fair rating. I am going to carry on this series, but I think if the third book is anything like the second book, I don't know if I'll continue. I'm not sure. I mean, at that point I'll only have 1 book left, but I don't think I can read like 2 more books of just constant sex. It's just a bit much. It just got a bit much in this one. Like, I don't know, there's only so many scenes of it that you can read when they're just a bit samey. But yeah, so that is that book done, and I did like it, just didn't love it. I have now read In Your Dreams by Sarah Adams, finishing out the When in Rome series, and I really enjoyed this one. So in this one we follow Madison and James, and they've been heavily featured throughout the other novels. Madison and James have always had a crush on each other, and they've never really admitted it. So Madison is 30 and I think James is about 34, and James works on his parents' farm. He's taken over the farm since his dad had a heart attack, I believe. And then Madison has been in New York throughout the entirety of the previous book. She has made appearances, obviously coming back to Rome to visit her siblings. She has gone to culinary school, and at the beginning of this book she has just graduated. She's really down in the dumps, like she's really low mentally, and she's really struggling with what she wants in life. She feels like a failure. She feels like everything that she tries to do she just fails at. She lives with a roommate who is really not a great roommate. She accidentally rings James, and they get to talking one evening, and James says, well, you can come and work in the restaurant that I'm opening on my farm. And Madison's like, oh, okay. And then Madison returns home. James is getting this restaurant up and going, but actually he only really had this idea for the restaurant based on Madison returning, and it's basically them developing a friendship and then a relationship with each other, with the pressures of James running the farm and sort of running himself into the ground really, and Madison sort of coming to terms with the fact that she isn't a failure, and her siblings trying to support her through her endeavours. So I really enjoyed this one. Like I said, Madison and James, we've been waiting for their story since the very first book, and we've had some sneak peeks of them throughout the novels, and I really liked this one. I really liked the characters. I really liked, even before the relationship and before sort of Madison and James even realised they were in love with each other, that they realised that they did love one another, even if it wasn't obvious to them that it was like a romantic love. They definitely loved each other as friends. Like Madison was really caring about James, and she feels like James was running himself ragged and into the ground trying to take care of his parents' farm. It was nice to see as well, like James really caring for Madison, but also trying to like repair a relationship with his brother and doing what he thinks is best for everyone involved, like with his parents as well. Like he wants to hide secrets, like the farm is really struggling financially because he doesn't want his father to have another heart attack, but he's really running himself into the ground as well. So it's nice to see their relationship blossom. It was really sweet, and I just loved being back in this town, being back with all the characters and the relationships that are formed in the previous books as well. It's really lovely to see like Noah and Amelia and all the other characters, the siblings siblings as well, and I like how James like really just slotted in with the other guys. You know, it's a perfect fit all round for everyone. There wasn't too much smut in this one either, which I really enjoyed, because sometimes I feel like it's a bit too much, but this had a really good amount. And I just really loved like the setting of, even though it was in Rome, in this, you know, town full of busybodies, it kind of felt like separate from that, and the fact that they were on the farm, they were running this or trying to make this restaurant happen. And we had Madison went back to New York a couple of times and just kind of like not faced her fears, but realized actually that she isn't a failure, but she just had really bad experiences in this world. So for example, for her culinary school degree, I guess, she had to intern at a restaurant, and the chef that she interned with was just horrible. She has like anxiety attacks whenever she steps foot in like a professional kitchen, and she meets with another professional chef, and she sort of realizes actually like I wasn't the problem, it was this chef who's given me really bad experiences, and actually she's not a failure. Their working styles didn't work, and it's really nice to see her like come to terms with that and like accept that she is actually enough. And yeah, it was just really sweet. I loved the relationship, I loved the friendships that they all had, and like I said, the four siblings was just really sweet. I've loved seeing all of them in all of these books, and in this one as well, it kind of like wrapped up this series really nicely. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I'm going to give this one a 4-star rating, which is pretty much what I've given all the other books as well. I don't know why they're not quite a 5-star, but I just really enjoyed all of them. So yeah, that is this one done, and I'm definitely going to check out more from Sarah Adams, as I have really enjoyed this romance series. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. But yeah, really enjoyed this one, and it was actually like a really quick read as well, and I just found myself like I really wanted to pick this up and read it, so that's always a good sign, isn't it? But yeah, really enjoyed this one, and I really loved the like how we had Madison having a culinary degree and setting up this restaurant. I feel like that was a little bit different, and I thought that with all of these books really, how like in the first one, when in Rome, we had Noah the pie maker and a pop star, and yeah, I just really loved how different they've all been to each other, and but they all fit really well together. So yeah, I've really loved this one. I loved Madison's relationship with her family, I loved James' relationship with his family, and how he kind of mended things, or even like tried to build a better relationship with his brother, and kind of came to realize that he didn't need to shoulder all the burdens in his family. So yeah, really enjoyed this one. Loved the character development for both of them, loved the relationship, and I thought this was a fantastic wrap up to this series. I have now read the next book for this reading vlog, which is Well Matched by Jen Luca. This is the third book in the Ren Fair series, and I read the first one back in like 2023, and I think the second one as well, so there's been a bit of a gap between reading these books, but I reread the synopsis of the first two just to establish who the characters were, so when they appeared in this one I did know who they were. So this one we follow April and Mitch. Now April is a single mother. Her husband left her when she found out she was pregnant like 18 years ago. Her child is now turning 18, graduating, moving on, and April moved to this town, and she never really thought of it as a home. She never planned on staying here, and her plan was that when her daughter Caitlin turned 18 and went off to college, that she would sell the house and move. The time approaches and she's getting the house up and ready to sell, and she doesn't meet Mitch at this point. She's already met Mitch, their friends. So April is Emily's sister from the first book, and Mitch is heavily involved in the Ren Fair. So what happens is April's at a bar one night, and Mitch approaches her to ward off a guy who's given April attention that she doesn't want, and then Mitch asks her to basically be his fake girlfriend for a dinner with his family, and then it quickly evolves into a weekend trip with his family, and then in return April wants him to help her get the house ready to sell. So they fake date, and then they spend a lot of time together and develop feelings for one another. Now I gave this one a 3-star rating. I just really struggled to get attached to either of these characters. I thought Mitch was a really great guy, and he was very open about what he wanted from April from the get-go really. Like when they're fake dating on this weekend away, he kind of makes it very clear that it's not fake to him and he wants something more. And for me, April was just like a commitment phobe, and she just wasn't using her words very well, and she kind of like strung him along quite a bit, and it just really irritated me. And when they eventually got together, I was just kind of like, I don't know, I just didn't really love this story. I loved seeing the characters from the previous books, I loved seeing Caitlin, and I just wish that the main female kind of had a bit more development. Like it was nice that she eventually opened up her heart to Mitch and things like that, but it just felt very like, I don't know, she knew what she wanted, but she just couldn't use her words to say it in a way. And it was just like, even when she's having a conversation with her sister about she's changed her mind about selling the house and stuff, she kind of like, she's waiting for Emily to say to her, oh, you love Mitch, and she can't even admit it to herself then. So like I can see why sort of Mitch gave her an ultimatum and like, you know, sort of left, and like I can't blame the guy, like I don't want to be treated like that either, but it just really irritated me. And then there was a couple of things that just kind of like didn't really go anywhere, like the reappearance of her ex-husband after all this time, and yeah, it was just like I enjoyed this story. I just didn't really love either characters, and I was just very detached from it. Like I enjoyed it, but I just had no inclination to like pick it up really. Like I read this in a day, like it's a weekend, I've read this in a day. Like I put it down sort of halfway through, and I was generally just kind of thinking like, oh, maybe should I even finish it? But it was cute, and like I loved being back at the Ren Fair again and seeing all the characters again and seeing April get involved in it after all this time. And like it was interesting to see her, like, so you know, her ex-husband comes to town and all the town stick up for her, and she's like really surprised by this, and it's like, but you're a part of the town and he's a stranger, so like obviously they're gonna stick up for you even though they don't know you very well. Considering she's lived here for like 18 years, she seemed a bit, I don't understand how she's not got involved in things, especially with her sister's husband being the founder of the Ren Fair. I don't understand how she's never really been all that involved in it. So yeah, it was just a bit of a weird, there was just a couple of bit of odd things in here, and I guess with a romance book, you know, you're not here for the plot really, but I just thought I didn't really love the character, like the female character anyway. I thought the guy, I don't know, I just didn't really see their chemistry. I don't know, I just didn't love this one, so I gave this a 3-star rating. I did like it, but it's definitely not my favourite in the series. I am interested in the next book in this series. I think that character is actually one of Mitch's cousins, the female anyway, so I'm really interested to see that. And I did enjoy like the first book in this series, just the middle two seemed to have fallen a bit flat for me. I didn't love the second one as much as I really liked the first one, so again the second one I felt like the chemistry was a little bit forced. So hopefully the fourth book is as good as the first book in the series, because I did really like that one. But yeah, that's a third book in the series done, and I've only got one left to read in this series now, and I did like it. I would recommend maybe the first book. I'll see when I read the fourth book if I would recommend this series altogether, but I definitely recommend the first book at least, and at least because it's like interconnected standalones, you don't necessarily have to read the whole series. But yeah, I just didn't love this one, but I do love the setting of like the Ren Fair and stuff, so yeah, I enjoyed being back there with some other characters. I just didn't love this couple really, so 3 stars for this one. I have now read the last book for this reading vlog, which is Glow of the Everflame by Penn. This is the second book in the Kindred's Curse series, and I didn't love the first one very much. I gave it a 3-star rating. I thought it was a more of a setup kind of novel, and this one I kind of enjoyed a little bit more, but I still think it sits in around the 3-star rating. So in this series we follow our main character DM, and at the very beginning of the first book her mother disappears and doesn't come back, and people presume that she is dead, and she's left with her stepfather who raised her since she was a child, so who she sees as a father, and her half-brother Teller. In this world there are a series of kingdoms. I think there's like 9 kingdoms, and they're all ruled over by a king or a queen, and they all get along quite well. There's no animosity between them currently. There's 2 types of people in each kingdom, so you have the descended and you have mortals. Mortals are just humans, they have no magical abilities, and then you have descended, who are descended from the kindred gods. They have magical abilities, some are more powerful than the others, and the ruler of the kingdom comes from the descended. And what happens is, in this first book, DM takes up her mother's job as a healer in the palace. She is trained as a healer herself, and she gets wrapped up with the descended and discovers some things about herself that she never knew before. She has a love interest who is one of the descended. Now in the first book there was no chemistry between them, and in this second book we explore what happens at the very end of the first book. Like I said, the first book was very much a setup novel for this rest of the series, and I did enjoy the second book more than the first book, but like I said, I still think it sits in a 3-star rating. So I think that the plot was kind of non-existent / very repetitive. So we obviously have DM, and she, in this book, she starts to kind of make friends with more of the descended. Obviously we know that she's friends with Luca, who's the prince who's going to be the king allegedly when the current king dies, and then we have like his sister Lily, who is kind of involved, friendly with Teller. Follow DM as she becomes friends with more descended. She navigates the politics of this world and this situation that she finds herself in. Obviously I'm not going to say because I don't want to spoil what happens in the first book, but for me, I just find DM a really insufferable character to follow, and I think if we had maybe Luther's perspective in this book, she would have been a bit more tolerable. But I think that she's so trusting of some people she has no reason to trust, and then she's so untrusting of people that she should trust. So Luther has proved time and time again that he really likes her and has her best interests at heart, and she repeatedly throughout this book just doesn't trust him and gets herself in situations that he then has to kind of like get her out of, and then she'll trust like random people who she's been warned by several people not to trust, and she just trusts them, gets herself in sticky situations, and it's just so frustrating because it's just continuous throughout the whole book. She's just doing this over and over and over again. She's really insufferable. The way that she treats some of the people in her life are just awful, and then just some of the other plot points as well. Like we hear a lot about DM's stepfather Andre in the first book, and then he makes an appearance in this book, and then something quite shocking happens here, but there's no emotional impact because like we've barely seen him. Like there's there's nothing, like, I didn't really find myself caring all that much. And then as well, I found, like, with the training, I really hate when this happens in books, is that they do these training montages, and like she's spending all this time training, trying to like come into her powers and hone them, and then she's like really struggling, she can't do it, she can't even, you know, in this book she can't even like pull her power when she wants it, and then all of a sudden at the end she's this all magical being who can do whatever she likes. And it's just so, I really don't like it, because I just think, what's the point of the training montages where you can see that she's struggling, to then them all be kind of null and void, and then for her to just come into her powers just because, like, there's just, it's really frustrating. I just found this book quite frustrating in parts. And the thing is, I am enjoying the plot of this, the wider plot that kind of doesn't really involve DM, politics of these kingdoms and how DM ties into all of that, and how this kingdom sits amongst the others, because like in some of the kingdoms they don't allow mortals, it's just descended, so DM's trying to like fight for the descended, but also she's kind of changing her mind on what she thinks of the descended, and she's a bit all over the place, and I don't really like that. She's a very flaky character, she's not a good friend, I just don't really like her as a character. So I think if we had like Luther's perspective, it might have lightened this a little bit, because the thing is, we've all read insufferable main characters before, that's not a problem, it's just you need the balance, and I think only following her perspective makes this like really quite drag to read. And yes, that's why I'm giving it a 3 star, because I just don't like the main character. The plot was very non-existent, and then like quite repetitive, like I said, with DM in these situations all the time where she trusts people that she shouldn't, and then gets herself in a situation, and then yada yada. It was just the same thing over and over again, it's the same arguments over and over again, and this is like nearly 600 pages, and it's just like, this could have been cut right down. So I am going to continue on with this series. I am enjoying it, I'm just not loving it as much as everyone else it seems to. So 3rd book is out, and I think the 4th one comes out later this year, I'm not quite sure. I think it was supposed to come out in July, but now it's been pushed back, so I'm definitely going to give the 3rd one a go, see what I think. If I think it's another sort of like 3-ish star, I don't know whether I'll continue on and read the final book, I don't know. I'm just interested in the wider plot, and I do enjoy some of the like side characters, just not the main character. So yeah, that is Glow of the Everflame done, another book off my TBR, and I'm catching up on this series, which is really good. So yeah, I did enjoy it. It is an okay series so far. It's good, it's enjoyable, it's not the best thing I've ever read. It's literally just the main character and the lack of plot, really. So 3 stars for that one, but at least that's one done now. So that is going to be the end of this reading vlog. Please comment down below if you've read any of these books. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions. Please remember to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.